It is 8:10. Alright there, you little demons. Jules here for WhatCulture.com, back again with another episode of the awesomely named and awfully hosted Choose Your Own Adventure, the weekly medieval theme format where I, the crown Jules of WhatCulture.com, take a list chosen by you. Yes, you, the person who got sent something incredibly cool in the post today. It is, drum roll please, Sai, the world's smallest Switch controller. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So that means that I can have this in my pocket at any time. It should be registered as a lethal weapon, my friends. It was the people over at Atom who sent this over. By the way, I'm not doing a sponsored plug for them. I just thought it was incredibly cool. So the next time that you see me walking in the street and you think, I'll have this guy. I see him coming along. I'm going to challenge him to some Smash Bros. Watch out, mate. Watch out. Oh, I died. But still, I could. Yes, you get to decide what list I dole out to you. What am I even doing, my love? Each and every week. And this week we have none other than Falchion. Yes, that's right, Falchion. I'm doing your entry. I've seen you each and every week, month after month, asking me to do this topic, and finally, like the gracious god of YouTube that I am, modest too, I have descended upon this lowly plane to address this. Because this is the thing, video games are great, they are fantastic, and considering that you're probably watching this list, you are a fan of them too. But the problem is that they're too bloody long half the time. We are time poor as a nation right now, and there are way too many new games and, well, real life things that we need to be taking care of. I mean, Scott recently has obviously just had his first kid, and as adorable as I'm sure that he is, he's probably looking at him thinking, listen mate, you are cutting into my free time, you are cutting into my Final Fantasy time, and you're the best thing I've ever done in my life. Outside of getting that golden chocobo. I'm not saying that that's exactly what he said, but I am ad-libbing there. Sia's probably pulling her hair out, trying to think about how long I'm going to stretch out this intro. A lot. So let's have a chat about them. As I'm Jules, at least I make myself laugh, eh? It's too early in the morning. I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 8 amazing RPGs for time poor players. Let's do it. I'm so sorry, Si. Number 8, Live Alive. Right, so let's kick this list off with an RPG basically tailor-made to be played in bite-sized chunks. 2022's remake of Square Enix's 1994 cult classic Live Alive divides itself across 9 distinct chapters in which players take control of 8 separate characters, with each chapter lasting about 2 to 3 hours on average. That is a bite-sized morsel that I would like to have more of, please. What's that? It's a buffet? It's all you can eat. Oh, you're going to regret those words, mate, because I'm a hungry boy. As such, it's easy to play a chapter, then put the controller down, and then pick the game back up again a few days later, or even weeks later, and not feel lost. But though all the disparate chapters are slyly building towards something bigger, they stand alone on their own merits as fun and fascinating little bite-sized adventures. These movie-inspired chapters span all manner of styles and tones, from westerns to sci-fi, martial arts, and many more. So there's something that you'll love, even if you don't love exactly what you're playing right now, because in a few hours' time you're playing something completely different. All in all, you can expect Live Alive to take you around 20 hours or so to beat, and there's barely an ounce of fat on this thing. The chapters certainly aren't created equal, and you'll definitely vibe with some more than others, but even the lesser ones are over quickly enough that it's impossible to basically get bored. Number 7, Child of Light. Child of Light kind of came and went around a decade ago without making much of a mainstream dent, but you know what? This eye-wateringly beautiful platformer RPG is absolutely unforgettable to anyone who, bothered to play it. Inside of a snappy 10-hour playtime, Child of Light fuses a gorgeous hand-painted style with a watercolor-esque art style aesthetics. It's just beautiful, and it's got intuitive platforming, smart puzzles, and satisfying turn-based combat. And its concise length is all the more bewildering when you consider this came from Ubisoft, of all companies. You know, the ones who have actively tried to move away from, let's face it, anything that isn't an open world third-person RPG. Come on, man. Like, what are you doing with your lives? Nothing. Waiting for Shadows to come out, that's what I'm doing. Yeah, so to see them go from tiresome bloatfest to something like this is shocking. But it's hardly the most complex of RPG tales, but its simple story actually helps push people through it because, yeah, it's a surefire gem of the 2010s that needs more love. Sadly, despite a sequel going into early development shortly after the original's launch, it still hasn't materialized, with Ubisoft's aggressive pivot into more, let's just call them milkable live services, made Child of Light 2 just incredibly unlikely. Milkable, but it's oil coming out of the teats. Still, the original game is deftly crafted in every fibre of its being and doesn't even get close to outstaying its welcome. You love to see it, and if you played it, you love to play it. Number 6, Undertale. Undertale is easily the shortest game on this list, given that the lower end of it can just be comfortably beaten in around 5 hours. But what a glorious 5 hours they are! Toby Fox's audacious RPG may look like a quaint throwback to the genre classic 2D offerings of yore, but on a narrative and gameplay level, it is anything but. This is a deeply subversive postmodern take on RPG tropes that continually upends the player's expectations. Just when you think you've got a handle on this game, it comes along and just goes, no? And you're like, oh, bloody hell, who's this guy, Ringo? I don't know. Why are we the Beatles? I don't know. It's too early. I've gone completely mad. By the way, this is something that people should not steal, but I'm putting out there as a $1 million shorts franchise. What if you took, right, the entirety of Star Wars, yeah, and you broke it up into short, like TikTok length segments, right? But you called it Ringo Star Wars, right? Yeah, with me at the moment. And you revoice every character as Ringo Starr, like a pretty dodgy impersonation of him. My impersonation of him should be the bar, really. But you also do all of the laser sound effects when they're firing as his voice too. All of the Foley is him. So it's like, as they're stepping, it's like, step, 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 pew, 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 quing, quing. That's the noise that a lightsaber makes, apparently. Tell me it wouldn't be $1 million hit. Ringo Star Wars. And speaking of hilariously weird, this game is just that, at once being hypnotic and off-putting and touting a wholly unique approach to combat. Undertale is a game that just drips with meticulous craft in every moment, no matter that it was developed for a pittance compared to pretty much every other game on this list. It's often said that brevity is the soul of wit, which is why I go on way too long and am unfunny. And Undertale is a peerless expression of this maxim. Smart, unexpected, and so concise that you can breeze through it in a lazy afternoon. Number 5, South Park: The Stick of Truth. Now, South Park: The Stick of Truth is a gloriously unrestrained, unapologetically profane homage to, and then a send-up of, the RPG genre. And it's shone through South Park's uniquely just weird lens, and it just takes no bloody prisoners. The result is a game that manages to feel like an RPG for people who don't actually like RPGs, or at least the traditional ones, per its simplistic gameplay and greater focus on characters and writing. And if you're worried that a relentlessly sarcastic South Park-themed RPG might end up outstaying its willfully obnoxious welcome, Obsidian Entertainment were the minds behind this, and they were clearly so well aware of this concern, and so what they did was they made the critical path that could be just comfortably breezed through in around 12 hours. Though much of the side content is utterly terrific, if you're in the market for a seat-of-your-pants RPG that's low on complex systems and high on the what the hell is going on here, then look no further than this game. It's brilliant. The sequel, The Fractured But Whole, is also pretty fantastic, though at about 18 hours, runs a little bit longer. Number 4, Golf Story. No matter how many dozens or even hundreds of RPGs you've played, you have never, ever experienced one quite like Golf Story. A wonderfully peculiar fusion of adventure RPG and sports game, Golf Story is centered around a protagonist attempting to regain his love of golf, whereby players must explore each of the 8 locales and then soon enough play a few rounds of golf on them. The game's success as both a funny and engaging RPG packed with memorable characters and a genuinely riveting sports game is nothing short, much like a giant pigeon, of a major coup. I made sigh. Go back and put this in. I like that joke. I like it. It's simple, it's unoffensive. It's a big pigeon. Ooh, what don't you like about that? What don't you like about that? That it also manages to collide these two disparate genres together inside of a tight 12 to 15 hours, well, that is a straight up hole in 12 to 15. That second joke, not as good. It's a big pigeon. Big pigeon, what's up, dude? Yo, with big pigeon in the house. Big pidge. Oh god, this is turning into Gunny and the Man, which season 2 is coming. Season 2 is coming of Gunny and the Man. Now, for anyone tired of full-on, overwhelmingly overstuffed RPGs, Golf Story is a welcome antidote per its charmingly laid-back style, where the stakes are so low and the combat, well, it's just not even part of the equation. Sadly, though, the same can't be said for the thoroughly naff, crushingly disappointing follow-up, Sports Story. Ew. Ew, brother, ew. Number 3, Parasite Eve. Oh, yes, sigh, we get to talk about Parasite Eve. Parasite Eve. And now for a Square Enix RPG that you can actually beat in a single day if you put your mind to it. And though its style and tone initially seems to have more in common with a Capcom survival horror game, make no mistake, my friends, Parasite Eve is a card-carrying RPG beneath all of that horror gloss. With its inventive combat system, a jaw-dropping art direction, and fascinatingly, well, disturbing story, Parasite Eve quickly won itself a cult of loyal fans, even if it did actually fall far short of the popularity of both Resident Evil and Final Fantasy. Which is a real shame. But unlike the latter franchise in particular, Parasite Eve doesn't demand dozens, even hundreds of hours of your time. Even with its rich mechanics, you can actually clear this game in around 8 to 10 hours. Anyone who claims that RPGs fail to respect players' time, this is the perfect antithesis to this. It's rich and tonally adventurous and doesn't demand much more than, I don't know, a weekend. If that. And it's brilliant. Number 2, Citizen Sleeper. Quite arguably one of the best RPGs of the past decade, Citizen Sleeper is a laudably to-the-point experience that delivers outstanding world building and a thought-provoking story inside a svelte 6 to 7 hours. A gloriously unconventional RPG, Citizen Sleeper takes place in a sci-fi dystopia, casting players as a human slave in a robot body who wishes to find a better life for themselves. Having more in common with a visual novel rather than traditional genre offerings, this game has no combat or big wide open world to explore. And while that might sound like a drawback, it's totally not, because the story is moved along by a limited number of daily dice rolls, while the game focuses on immersing players in its rich world and endearing them to its memorable cast of characters. Now, Citizen Sleeper may seem simple compared to the glut of RPGs with exhaustingly intricate gameplay systems, but such is its strength. With its pared-down mechanics and limited scope, it's one hell of a refreshing palate cleanser in an era of shameless content bloat. You won't be finding yourself doing all of those mini-tasks of like, please sweep 10 piles of dust away, or go visit my mate Steve across the Vale and deliver him this exotic pixelated mushroom. Go now, and your reward shall be 3 of those mushrooms that he was carrying, and also 10 XP. What do you mean you don't want to take the job? I'm stuck to the floor doing this weird animation. Oh, and the best part about all of this is, if you enjoyed Citizen Sleeper, bing, there's a sequel coming for it next year. Hey! Big bitch. And number 1, Chrono Trigger. And finally, though it's the longest game on this list at around 20 to 22 hours, Chrono Trigger is one of the best paced and most downright brilliant RPGs, and say it with me, Pidge, of all time! Almost 3 decades since its release, Square Enix's genre opus is as fiercely inventive and envelope-pushing as RPGs have ever been, while cementing many of the mechanics and ideas that we take for granted today. The game's use of time travel as both a story and gameplay device is unrelentingly clever, and it still looks fantastic all of those years later. Enough so that in an era of endless remakes, many fans are quite content with the fundamentally perfect game that they've already got. Like, no one's asking for a remake of Chrono Trigger, we don't need it. Now again, it is a little longer than the other games on this list, but Chrono Trigger should still be comfortably beaten in a week or two, even with the most time-poor player in mind. Unlike most modern Square Enix RPGs, it's free of time-wasting guff and gets straight to the heart of its beguiling and brilliant story. And that, alongside many, 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 many other reasons, is why we will always love Chrono Trigger. And if you've not played it, oh, please, my friend, please do. There's no, just do. Scooby-Doo it, mate. It's great. And there we go, my friends. Those were 8 amazing RPGs for time-poor players. Falchon, I hope that you enjoyed that. And sorry it took so long to get around to your comment. I know you've been commenting week on week on week for months, and I'm glad to finally deliver. And hopefully you've enjoyed this video. It better not be the one that you don't comment on and miss for some reason. That... you cheeky devil, you. But let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below, and pop your suggestions for next week's episode down there as well. If you want to follow me on the social medias, you can do so over here, and you can follow my wonderful and ever patient editor, Sai, over on her social medias over here as well. But before I go, my friends, I want to say one thing. Even though we spoke today about video games that do not waste your time, you should always take at least 5 to 10 minutes of your day, just before you start any activity or any sort of, well, starting your day in general, just to remind yourself of these key things. That you are a big ledge, you deserve love, happiness, and success. And above all else, just be kind to yourself. Please, that's all I ever ask at the end of these videos, is just to remind yourself that you are a beautiful human being and you deserve the best, all right? And don't let anything or anyone else out there in that world tell you any different, all right? Get out there when you're ready and smash it. As always, I've been Jules, you have been awesome, never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.